Hey guys, I thought it'd be fun to do a screen capture so you can actually see my face. And then you can also listen to me make all of my little bumbling mistakes because that's part of what makes chemistry fun, right? So today we're going to talk about food additives. So food additives are substances that we add to food during processing. We can add them for a lot of different reasons. We add them to increase nutritive value. So these would be like our vitamins and our minerals. We talked about that with our vitamins minerals notes. So adding things like vitamin A to margarine or vitamin D to milk. They can extend storage life because if we're gonna, go through all the trouble to bake some bread, we want to make sure that it doesn't go bad before it gets to you. Increase visual appeal. So we have this idea, and this kind of goes with enhanced flavor too. If you buy strawberry ice cream, you expect it to be pink, right? And if you buy vanilla ice cream, you expect it to be white. And if you buy chocolate ice cream, you expect that deep, rich brown color. If you got chocolate ice cream and it looked almost bleached out, you would think something was wrong with it. And then enhancing flavor also, again, if we buy vanilla ice cream, we want it to taste like vanilla, or if we buy strawberry ice cream, we want it to taste like strawberry. Can you tell what I really want right now? Okay, just making sure. And then it also can make production easier. And so there's a lot of them, and I'm going to go through some of them, and I'm going to try and say some of them, so that's kind of fun too. There's anti-caking agents, and anti-caking agents keep food from clumping together, and so sodium ferrocyanide, and you're going to see those in things like cake mix, or you might see them added into breadcrumbs if you buy those, just to keep them from getting all clumpy together. Antioxidants help prevent fat rancidity, so in other words, fat going bad, which we don't want that. And so if you look on your nutrition label, you're going to see the letters BHA or BHT, and that's what those are for. Bleaches, they give a white color. So again, if you buy a vanilla or a white cake mix, you expect it to be white, and we expect white bread to look white. And if I try and feed my kids white bread that doesn't actually look white, no, they ain't gonna eat it. Okay. You can also, this is kind of fascinating, you can add it to cheese during the cheese making process, and it'll help the cheese come together faster. Sulfur dioxide is your formula for that. Coloring agents can increase visual appeal. So these are synthetic dyes and carotenes. These usually have big, long names. Sometimes they're shortened, and you'll call them things like red dye number 40, which a lot of people have allergies to. Emulsifiers improve texture and make oil and water mix. So you're going to find these in your baked goods. Cellulose, gum, and dextrin are two examples of that. And then flavoring agents are going to add or enhance flavor. So we don't always think about salt and pepper and spices like paprika or garlic powder being considered flavoring agents or food additives, but they are. MSG is one that gets a lot of flack sometimes, but MSG, you often find it in Asian foods. It gives that really rich, deep flavor. Okay, humectants, I don't even know. We're just gonna say I said it right. But they keep food moist. Again, if you buy bread or a Hostess Twinkie or something like that, you don't want it to get dried out by from the time it ships to the time it gets to you. And glycerin is what helps with that. Glycerin also, by the way, is in bubbles and helps bubbles form, which is kind of fun to know. Leavening agents. Leavening agents. They give foods a light texture, and so if you bake, you're going to use leavening agents in things like breads, pancakes, waffles, stuff like that. Cookies will have them, and it just makes your food light and fluffy. So baking powder and baking soda are two examples of those. Nutrients, so we've talked about this with our vitamins and minerals notes and a little bit before, but we can add different minerals and vitamins into foods to help make them healthier, or make sure that the general public is getting things that they don't normally get. So vitamin D to milk, because vitamin D helps you absorb calcium. We can also add things like iodine to salt. Preservatives and growth inhibitors can prevent spoilage and mold growth. And so propanoic acid, sorbic acid, benzoic acid, and salt all help with that. And salt actually has a lot of uses. Isn't that interesting? Besides just making your French fries amazing. And then sweeteners give taste. Sugar, dextrin, Fructose, aspartame, sorbitol, and mannitol are those. And we actually have a slide just about artificial sweeteners. But sugar and fructose are not artificial. So fructose, remember, is the sugar that you find in fruit. So regulating additives. So who gets to say what goes in your food? And the answer is the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration. So the FDA was part of the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act in 1938. So that's how long they've been around. And they're the ones that make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and that weird things aren't showing up in your food. So examples of things that the FDA monitors. Food additives. So if you say that you're putting in red dye number 40, but you're really putting in red dye number 8, they're going to make sure that you're following the rules and you're doing what you say you're doing. Contaminants. So we're trying to make sure these things don't get in your food, by the way. So these would be things like pesticides. So if you spray corn with pesticides to keep the bugs from eating it, and then you turn that corn into tortilla chips, we want to make sure that that pesticide is not still there in the tortilla chips. Does that kind of make sense? Insect fragments, this is gross, but anywhere there's food, there's going to be bugs, and that's one of the reasons why they're all like, you have to eat in the cafeteria, okay? Because roaches, nobody wants them. So if you are making corn tortilla chips, there's going to be a lot of bugs trying to get into your facility, and we want to make sure that those bugs don't get into the food making process and end up in your food. So this is what we're trying to keep from happening, okay? Dirt and mold. So again, when we're pulling that corn and harvesting it, we want to make sure that it's clean before we start using it. Antibiotics. Sometimes you'll put antibiotics with different species of fruits and vegetables, but specifically we'll use them with animals to try and keep the animals healthy so that they don't get sick, and then you can use them for food. And then packing materials. We don't want little pieces of plastic or cardboard getting in our Hostess cupcake because that ruins the experience, people. Ruins the experience. I think I'm going to love screen capture. You're going to get to see me. Okay, possible mutagens. Mutagens cause changes to DNA, so that's where, like in X-Men, the word mutant comes from. Okay, so those mutagens can cause cancer, but they don't always cause cancer, and they will not actually cause you to get superpowers. Sorry about that. Possible carcinogens, and so carcinogens are things that do for sure cause cancer or lead to cancer, and so we're going to talk about that here in a little bit too. So before the FDA was created, there were a lot of food additives that are already in use. So the FDA grandfathered in, so if you've ever heard that term before, to be grandfathered in means we're not going to make you jump through all the hoops, you're good, okay? And so what that means is they didn't test certain additives, like our vitamins, our minerals, salt. They didn't test salt to make sure that salt's safe for you, or vinegar, or any of those types of things. They were grandfathered in, and that's what the GROS list is. It's generally recognized as safe, okay? Anything that's not on the GROS list has to be tested in order to get on the GROS list. Now, in the 1950s, the FDA passed the Delaney Clause, and the Delaney Clause was a very, very strict clause that said that anything that can cause cancer in animals or people cannot be sold as food additives. And it made that all food additives had to be tested on animals. So if you don't like animal testing, this was a big deal for people. And in 1996, the Delaney Clause was replaced with the Food Quality and Protection Act. And so what the Food Quality and Protection Act did is it said if there is negligible risk, then you can use those items. So a really good example of that is aspartame, which is NutraSweet. Now, aspartame is often used in diet drinks like Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. And aspartame in large amounts was found to cause cancer in lab rats. The amounts that they were putting in the lab rats were more than you drinking a 12-pack of soda a day, to put that in perspective for their size versus your size. So, yes, if you drink that much soda a day, it's probably going to raise your risk for cancer. But what they found was there's a negligible risk. There's a small risk that you could get cancer from aspartame. And so now we can sell that as diet pop. And so that's important for like diabetics because they need that sugar replacement because taking in too much sugar can cause them a lot of damage, and you want to have a life, man. Everybody wants to have a life and drink a little pop every now and then. Nitrates are another example. So we find nitrates in like hot dogs and pepperoni and ham and turkey and all those processed meats. And so, yes, nitrates can, in large amounts, again, cause cancer, but they 100% keep botulism, which is a bacteria, from growing in that meat. So we can 100% of the time protect you from a bacteria that will harm you, or we could keep you from maybe sort of kind of having a higher risk of cancer. And that's what the Food and Quality and Protection Act was doing, is they were saying, hey, we're going to let people make the choice about the risks that they want to take. Okay. So some things that would have been banned under the Delaney Clause are now allowed under the Food Quality and Protection Act. So I promised you artificial sweeteners, so here we go. Artificial sweeteners are used to reduce sugar intake. So this is a really big thing for people who are diabetic. It's also used a lot for people who are trying to just keep their blood sugar under control, or people who are trying to lose weight, because a lot of these artificial sweeteners don't have any calories in them. And the first artificial sweetener that was commonly used was saccharin, and saccharin is in Sweet and Low. So Sweet and Low, that's the little pink packets. There they are, the little pink packets. Aspartame was used in Equal and NutraSweet, so that's the little blue packet. So you might recognize these little packets down here from eating in a restaurant. Okay. Equal has 2 amino acids in it, which makes it 200 times sweeter than sugar. But amino acids break down when you cook them or heat them, so you can't really use these to cook with. And then Splenda stays together. Splenda was a really big deal when it first came on the market, because Splenda is considered a lot safer than Sweet and Low and Equal. And it stands up to heat, so you can actually use it to cook with and bake with. Okay, and so food additive warning. So we have to tell you what additives are in your food. And so there are some things that can cause issues with like medical conditions. So over here we have a food allergy notice. And so we tend to tell people if there's a lot of allergens in your food, or something that's a really common allergen. So down here in the lower left corner, it says it may contain milk, eggs, wheat, soybean, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, and shellfish. Those are a lot of really common food allergies. They don't have gluten on there, which is another really common one that you'll find. And then over here, individuals with PKU or who are pregnant or nursing would not want to use this product because it's going to have that phenylalanine in it. Okay. And then people who have who are diabetics are going to look at these nutrition labels for the types of sugars and artificial sweeteners that are in them. And then people with high blood pressure also have to limit their salt intake, because salt can make your blood a little thicker, and then that's hard for your blood to go. The FDA also regulates food labels in the US, the addition to basic information such as quality, blah, 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 what's in your food. So you guys have hopefully looked at a food label before. If you haven't, here's one. The serving size here is 1 package. It tells you calories and all of these macronutrients, so like our carbs and our protein and our fat. Okay. Down here under the second double line, it's going to tell us our micronutrients, our vitamins and our minerals. And then you have your ingredients list even further under that. And usually at the end of the ingredients list, they will either have a box or it'll be bolded, and it says it contains, this one says milk and wheat ingredients. And so those are things that are common allergens. So I hope that you guys found this helpful, and I will see you sometime. Bye, guys.